Tempting fate. The plan was a 5 a.m. pre-dawn beach run followed by a 6 to 7 up before the cars bike ride along the North Carolina beach coast section of U.S. Highway 421. I am an early riser who usually spends a few dark 30 hours tapping away writing, but as I'm sharing a tiny 12-foot by 12-foot 14 square meter queen-size bedroom and tiny bath with my I live to sleep in beloved goddess of a wife Durga at the Carolina Beach Inn, a quaint establishment that turns off its internet service at night and has no common area in which I can escape to write without disturbing my darling, any early morning cogitation is reduced to me scribbling stories in a notebook to transcribe later, a process that fails to fill me with joy. Given these circumstances in the sprint triathlon, in which we will be competing in another 50 hours, I choose to run, then ride in the sleepy early morn. That was the plan, but as I hiked the 2 short blocks east from inn to beach, I wondered about my plan's implementation. The black as ink sky crackled with occasional streaks of white, as off in the distance south thunder rumbled, the sound and the fury far enough away as to make counting seconds between flash and boom unrevealing. There was a storm, but its distance lulled me into complacency. As the remote lightning did not worry me, it is unsurprising that the light sporadic drops that fell earthward likewise caused me no alarm. My attention was not on the sky, but rather the beach, as I worried about stepping into a hole left over from playful folks the night before. That beach was dark, and I kept my head down as I ran, on the lookout for holes, until I became certain that the rolling waves of tide on sand had flattened ankle-twisting irregularities. I trotted southward, running along the water's edge, running at the spot where the ground was most firm, an intersection of land and sea that made for smooth sailing along the exfoliated packed quartz, the tiny grains of silicon dioxide upon which I plodded. As I shuffled southward, the distant crackle of light and eventual peal of thunder accompanied me in soothing yet energizing display, a companion that added to the enjoyment I felt jogging along the deserted Atlantic beach. Alone on the sand, surf at my feet, my only spied fellow beachgoer, a dark figure setting his meters-high fishing poles in the pliant sand. I greeted my dark stranger as I ran by, but heard no reply. I ran on, counting my breaths in my OCD way, each 100th breath receiving a tick of a finger, each handful of ticks approximating a mile traveled. I had been 200 ticks when I greeted my lone and mute fisherman, and at 300 ticks the lightning flashes became brighter, more frequent, and the interval of time between flash and boom was now a discernible 10 seconds, a span that assured me the storm was still a distant 2 miles to my south. I ran onward, pleased with the light rain, mesmerized by the lightning, invigorated by the rising timpani. I laughed aloud as the rain shifted from drental to drenching. At 500 breaths, a single fistful of counted ticks, I reached the pier to which Durga and I had walked as the sun set the night before. The rain, now torrents, the interval between lightning strike and thunderclap shortened to 4 seconds. I ran onward another 100 breaths, the interval between flash and boom, having, then having again, the strikes so bright as to momentarily blind. I turned out to sea, tacking against the wind, changing course 180 degrees, heading back to lifeguard stand 19, the point where Carolina Beach's short boardwalk ends and where my run began. The weather has turned from calm to fierce, the rain from peaceful to drenching, and my run from tranquil to charge. The lightning concerns me in equal parts to its invigoration. I run faster, determined not to allow myself to be swept out to sea, determined to ride out the storm and revel in her fury. The lightning strikes frequency increase, their blinding flash and deafening boom arriving simultaneously. I feel alive. I feel fear. I pray for the lightning to stop. I pray for the lightning to continue. I run faster and think of yesterday's frolic in the surf with Durga, how sitting on the beach after I'd almost asked her, "Do you know how old I was when I first daydreamed of swimming out to sea? Of swimming beyond my limits and letting the ocean roll over and extinguish me?" I did not ask. I did not burden her. I did not tell her the thoughts that have haunted me since I was 13 years old. of my struggle that rises and falls like the tide. A struggle at times easy to ignore, a barely perceptible ebb and neap that transforms into an undertow determined to sweep me away. I remain mute, but fighting the siren song of self-annihilation by surrender that has plagued me on and off for 45 years. I told her none of that as we sat side by side on the beach, but I thought of it now as I ran by that ocean, the cascade of water from above and the pound of waves from below melded into one undeniable force of nature. I passed the 2 poles of my fisherman, but his dark figure is nowhere to be seen. The element's too much for him. He has retreated. He has sought shelter until the storm's fury has played herself out. Lightning strikes abound. Water cascades down my face. A synergistic combination that blinds. Lightning flash, thunder boom, impenetrable darkness. I run, thinking how glorious it is to dance by the sea, to tempt the lightning quick fate of death, to be alive and to want to live. Tempting fate, I live, and living I wish to live on and on, to battle the elements within and without that let me see, that blind me, that would drown me. The very elements that remind me of what a gift life can truly be.